triamcinolone acetonide is a very useful adjunct in induction of posterior vitreous detachment. Triamcinolone crystals stain the posterior haloid face and form two blobs as seen here. This helps to identify the posterior haloid face and induce the posterior vitreous detachment. In this video, you can see how it makes it easy to identify the posterior vitreous face. However, in case of macular hole, these triamcinolone crystals tend to lodge inside the macular hole on the retinal pigment epithelium. The presence of these crystals may impede the closure of the hole. Also, the crystals by themselves can be toxic to the retinal pigment epithelium. Here, in another case, see how triamcinolone delineates the posterior haloid face, making the induction of PVD easier. In this case also, we end up with a few crystals inside the macular hole. In some cases like this, the crystal deposition can be heavy. These crystals are very difficult to aspirate and can lead to damage of retinal pigment epithelium in the process. This video demonstrates how the suction alters the macular hole morphology during such an attempt. In this case, an inverted flap was made, but the flap got lost during the attempted removal of the crystals. So depending upon the chance, you can get either a minimum or moderate or heavy amount of crystals inside the macular hole. So how to avoid this situation? Is there any other option? Any other stain which is non-toxic and can stain the posterior vitreous face? Viola. We found such a dye, which is very commonly used in the vitreoretinal surgery. Yes, it's none other than Brilliant Blue G, easily available and a non-toxic dye. We attempted to use Brilliant Blue G dye to stain the posterior vitreous face. It stained it in an almost similar pattern like triamcinolone. With some efforts, PVD was successfully induced. Appreciate there are no deposits, just clean macular hole post the brilliant blue staining of the ILM. Produce ILM flaps with ease without being bothered about the crystals in the macular This second case again demonstrates the effectivity of brilliant blue dye for PVD induction. Here also the PVD was successfully induced. Hole post-staining can be appreciated. ILM was peeled with the inverted flap technique. Brilliant blue can also be used to confirm the presence of pre-existing posterior vitreous detachment. In this case of pre-existing PVD, the brilliant blue stain fails to produce any staining pattern and gets washed off, confirming the absence of any posterior vitreous phase. This helps to confirm that the posterior vitreous detachment is already present. We demonstrate this fourth case to reinforce the effectivity of brilliant blue for induction of PVD. To conclude, the triamcinolone crystals can be effectively dodged by brilliant blue G staining. It is immensely helpful in cases of macular hole to avoid trapping of crystals in the hole. We recommend to switch over the brilliant blue G, particularly in case of macular hole. Thank you for your kind attention.